Hi, my name is Hannah. Welcome back to my channel. I have books I want to talk about, but first, a quick knitting update. I finished the dress, and yes, it ended up being for my 4-year-old, so I will put a picture up here. It worked out okay. It wasn't my favorite project I've ever made, no, but it's fine. It's done, a dress, and I made a cute little bow to match, and she loves it, which is what matters. She's very excited to have a new dress, and I think the next knitting project I'm going to do is a blanket, which I have never made before. I've only ever done clothing. I've only ever knitted clothing, and I'm very excited to try a blanket. I need a nice throw blanket, like decoration wise, for my family room, and I'm going to go try that out. So when I finally find yarn and a pattern that I like, I will make sure to update you, because right now, I don't know, I'm out of projects and I need something to do. So hopefully I can find something soon, but there is my little knitting update, and let's jump into the books that I have read the last week or so. First book that I want to talk about was a recommendation from Dia over at Novel Idea, and I'll make sure to link her channel down below. She is just the nicest person, and she recommended that I pick up Ithaca by Claire North. This book is happening at about the time of the Odyssey, and we are getting Penelope on the island of Ithaca and what happened there while her husband is away, presumed dead. It is a very woman-centric story, and it is told from the perspective of Hera. Last year, I read the book Electra by Jennifer Saint, and that was a women's perspective of what happened during the Trojan War. We have Clytemnestra, Cassandra, and Electra, and it is following their perspective. Now, I enjoyed this book. Was it my very favorite Greek retelling? No, it was not. But reading Ithaca has made me like Electra more, because Ithaca really feels like it's picking up after Electra and making something more out of it. I ended up thinking this was one of my favorite Greek retellings that I have read recently. I tend to compare a lot of the Greek retellings that I read to the wonderful books by Madeline Miller, and a lot of them fall short. But this one was a 5-star for me. Not only did it retell the story from a different perspective that we don't always see, but it made it feel fresh and meaningful. And I really liked it. And it did make me appreciate Electra more, because this felt like a continuation. I think you could read them one after the other and feel like it was part of the same story. And so I really liked that. I was glad that I had read Electra last year. It really did give me a little more context and feeling going into Ithaca, which I think really improved the reading experience. I was surprised how much I liked the narrator in this book, because it was told from the perspective of Hera, and my initial assumption on something like that would be that having a god tell the story might make it hard to connect on a personal level, but I thought that Hera's perspective as this Queen of Heaven, watching how she feels about her power and her power that has been taken away from her, and how it relates to these queens that she watches over, was really powerful and meaningful. So overall, this is one of the better Greek retellings that I have read, and I really enjoyed it. So highly recommend, if you are into Greek retellings, this one is definitely worth checking out. Now, in the same vein as the last one, this book was also recommended by Dia and is Greek retellings. So I picked up Heroes, Mortals, and Monsters, Quests and Adventures by Stephen Fry. Now this is a follow-up to Mythos, where he talked about the creation of the universe from Greek mythology. And I thought that one was really great. It tells a lot of these stories and makes them feel funny and fresh and present and very accessible. And this did not disappoint. It told many stories of some of our favorite Greek heroes in a very easy to read, accessible way, and in fun little chunks. Now, did this do what Ithaca did in reinventing and reimagining these stories to make them really meaningful? No, but I don't think that was the intention. This was to tell these Greek myths, tell you what happened, but make it accessible and fun so that you have a good background. I think that Stephen Fry does a really good job at making these stories come to life, and I enjoyed it. I'm glad that I picked it up, and what I like about this is it gives you the actual myth in an easy to understand sort of way, and then when you go back and you read stories like Ithaca, you have a background to pull upon. You know what the story is, so the reimaginings make more sense because you know what the original was. This was my Greek mythology interlude this last week, and I thought that both of these books were really good, so thank you, Dia, for the recommendations, and highly recommend both. I think that they give you different things. I think if you want to pick up Heroes, it's a great one. If you don't want to be sucked in and have to read the whole book all at once, because it's broken up into different stories, you can read a story, set the book down, come back to it later, and you're not going to feel like you have to keep going, but you're really going to enjoy the individual stories. But Ithaca was just a really compelling story altogether. So both of these books were just excellent. I was really glad that I picked them up this last week. Now, Kim, at Middle of the Book March, recommended the book These Silent Woods by Kimmy Cunningham Grant. This is following our main character, Cooper, and his daughter, Finch, and they are living in a cabin completely off the grid, and you learn why they are hiding from the world. You get to know the one neighbor that they have who knows that they're there, and the one friend who helps by bringing them supplies. And you kind of learn the backstory of Cooper, of what's happened, what's put them there, and what is happening. This book says that it's a thriller, and so I went into it with a thriller book mindset, and I don't know if you approach thrillers the same way as I do, but I am going in with all the crazy guesses. You know, he was dead all along. What is the crazy twist, right? I want to know what all the twists are, and so I'm guessing and trying to figure it out. And I don't know if this book ever paid off in a very thriller-y way for me. I don't feel like I was very satisfied with the thriller aspect. I thought it was an interesting story, however. I think the exploration of characters was really interesting, and the way that it ended, I don't know how to feel about it. And so I don't necessarily dislike this book, and I don't necessarily love this book, but it made me think, and I still can't decide how I feel about this book, about how it ended, and I don't want to spoil it if you were to read this book, but there were just some things that I'm like, am I okay with that? Do I feel like this character is justified in the things that they've done? Do I feel like we should say this is okay? I thought that there were a lot of questions that the ending left me with that I was not too sure about. And I do think that as a parent, I have maybe a different perspective. If you didn't have a child, would you look at this in a different light? And I did think it was interesting because the daughter in this book is 8 years old. I have an 8-year-old, and really thinking of how my daughter would react in these situations was very interesting. So I don't know on this one. It was suspenseful. It did maybe have those thrillery elements, and then I got to the end and thought, was this even a thriller? Did I ever really feel the sense of danger enough? I don't know. And then the ending left me just asking questions. But in some ways, that means that this was a good book because I can't stop thinking about it. So if you've read this book, let me know what you thought. I don't really know where I stand on this book. Was it good? I couldn't put it down. Did it end up in a way that was meaningful? Maybe, but maybe it was trying too hard to be meaningful. Maybe. Now, if you've been following along with some of my past videos, I have been on a David Sedaris kick, and so I thought I'd branch out and pick up a book by Amy Sedaris, who is David's sister, and I picked up I Like You, Hospitality Under the Influence. This book is part cookbook, part guide to entertaining and part humor. And I don't know if any of it quite worked. None of the recipes were things that I thought, yes, I need to make this right now. The humor was just bonkers, and the hospitality advice was pretty basic. So was this book great? No. Do I really recommend it? Not really, but did I kind of have fun with the completely bonkers things that Amy Sedaris put in this book? Yeah, it was just kind of a hot mess, and I enjoyed it. But I don't really recommend it. I don't know what this was. I don't know what it was trying to do. And if you want a good book about entertaining, I have a recommendation for that. 5 years ago, I read the book, The Art of Gathering, How We Meet and Why It Matters by Priya Parker. And that one was an excellent guide to hospitality. I do not typically love self-help books because I just don't feel like they have very concrete things that improve my life. And then it's just a waste of time, or it's validating things that I already was going to do anyway. But this gave such good, concrete things to do to improve your hosting, improve your gathering, your family get-togethers, your parties, and how to make them meaningful and memorable. And I loved this one. I read it 5 years ago. I still think about it often, and I kind of wish I had a copy of it just because this was a very useful book. So while the Amy Sedaris book was entertaining, if you want a good book about hospitality, I do recommend The Art of Gathering. It was a very useful kind of self-help book that can really improve how you look at social gatherings. And those are the books that I have read in the past week or so. I haven't acknowledged my beautiful random bookshelf back here. We have the beautiful alive plant. We have the beautiful fake plant. And then look at these. My mom sent these out the last time my husband went to the US. And these are little tiny heads that I made back when I was in high school in a ceramics class. I made these little tiny faces and she sent them out, and I love having them. It is so fun to look back and remember my little tiny faces that I made in ceramics class. So I'm really glad to have them back. This one has been broken. I think my brother was juggling with them at some point, but I am so glad to have them back. So that's kind of what's going on in the background. I want to try doing some more filming outside, so maybe next video, but thank you for sticking with me. If you have any thoughts on these books or anything else, let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you all on the next video.